everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you a very elegant rose gold nutcracker. All the colors in this are very soft, very pretty. I absolutely love it. I'm using some of the Madam Glam goodies from their advent calendar that are in this year. One of them is a foil that is absolutely stunning. I hope you guys like this. If you want to see any of like the original stuff from the advent calendar, the opening, I can put a link to when I first was looking at it in the description box below, and I will see you all next time. Bye!
We are going to begin, like I said, everything has very soft color. So I'm going to use a natural color overlay. And this is one that I love to apply on my own nails that I do a lot when I'm sculpting and doing acrylic colors on myself. Not so much ones that I use on my little fun nail tips, but I thought, you know what, that's just the perfect soft icy background for this nutcracker. So we're going to be applying that. It's a little bit more sheer than what a milky white would be. It's just like one step less pigmented than a milky white. And then file the nail into shape with your E-file, going over everything, smoothing it out, making sure that the shape is beautiful. And then with a narrow bit in your E-file, carve a well or a little cavity right in the very tip of the nail. So you're almost splitting it into two. So you're not going all the way through the plastic nail tip underneath, but just really creating a nice little dip in the middle. Then with the color that you're going to use for your nutcracker's face, I'm going to sculpt a circle that goes right above the top of that dip. So it's going to basically be resting on the top edge of that cavity that you carved, and just sculpt a nice circle shape. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but the closer you can get to a sphere, the better. If you're going to kind of flatten anything off, right at the bottom, right above where that dip is where you're going to want to straighten it out. Then with a beautiful icy pink color, I'm going to be sculpting the top of his hat and then the start of his shoulders and chest. This color is so beautiful. It's one of my absolute favorites, and it just has that like perfect winter pink color to it because it's got a touch of like a white silver glitter. I'm going to take that, and when I go across his chest, I'm going to make sure I go just right next to that area that I carved and not into it. So make sure it doesn't flood into that little well that you carved. So make sure you leave that empty. I am also going to then I'm going to puncture the very bottom of our nutcracker's top of mouth, or what looks like chin. And I'm going to string a wire into that area, and then I'm going to just stick it down permanently with some clear acrylic. If you wanted to and you were smart, you probably would have taken and placed that wire in place as you were sculpting the nutcracker's face instead of having to do it my way. However, if you do decide to do it my way, or you forget to put the wire in like some people do, then it is actually kind of nice if you do have that very tiny E-file bit, because it really holds the wire in place for you easier instead of having to try to hold it while you're sculpting the face. So there's pros and cons. With a slightly darker, still icy type of pink, I'm going to be sculpting a crown around the top of the nutcracker's hat. As I'm going around in a circle doing these different triangles, I'm mostly worried about the top edge, not so much worried about the bottom edge, and I'm not so much worried about the face of it, the smoothness of the very front. All of that can be touched up. It's harder to fix that top zigzaggy edge. So just for now, just leave it like that. And then with some white acrylic, I'm going to be adding his hair. The great thing with nutcrackers is there's so many different color combinations. They're basically every single thing you can think of now. I know I was walking around Hobby Lobby and I was just stunned by their nutcracker display. I mean, they had everything. They had Star Wars nutcrackers and, Pride nutcrackers that were rainbow that I thought were really cool. And they had ones that were like unicorns. They had every single kind of nutcracker you could possibly think of. So as you're making your own nutcracker, if you're following this tutorial for technique, not for color, then you could have so much fun jazzing this up however you want. For the hair especially, if you are going to go in with a color that's highly contrasting from your face color like mine is, make sure that you press it up against the edge of that circle as if you were doing a reverse French tip. And think of the face as like your nail bed, and then the white is the white tip. And then I'm going to fix up and finish off that crown after I have the hair done. So just smooth it out. This is the time when it actually looks nice and smooth and finished. That's why I said don't worry about it before, because we'll come back to that. And it's good to get that hair in first. With a nice kind of a bronzy gold color acrylic, I'm going to be adding a little thing on the very top of the hat. And then I'm going to finish off the bottom of the crown area with a band of that darker pink. So I'm just going to sculpt going right across, pulling it side to side until we get this nice skinny band across the very top. If your acrylic didn't quite go all the way from one side to the other, just fill it in with the rest on the other side. It's sometimes hard to gauge exactly how much you're going to need. Once that is done and it does all smooth out from one side to the other, then you're going to want to continue working with that paint color and add the next layer to his body. So the first ones I did is like the the chest lapels. And then you're going to be adding the actual shoulders. Keep a nice curve at the top of it. Don't extend that all the way up into the hair. End it with a little nice curved top. Once those are done and you have it thus far, you can go through and do your other little embellishment details. I'm going to take my bronzy gold and I'm going to be adding the shoulder pads on the Nutcracker and anything else I feel is necessary. Keep in mind that you can add so much detail with acrylic paint, or in my case, I'm going to be using some foil too momentarily. So if you don't want to sculpt everything, you could be done at any point with the sculpting. The other thing that I do think I want to add is I'm going to add a little bit of detail to his face, a little more detail to his face. And the only thing that I'm really worried about adding for facial details is after I get that other little gold detail across the top of his chest, I'm going to add his nose. And I believe I did this in my other videos when I've sculpted the Nutcracker. And if you want to see other Nutcracker videos, I can put links to them in the description box below. But I like to sculpt the nose. The nose is one thing that, you always see it carved into the wooden faces. And I feel like that's probably the necessary or the more recommended thing. I've also seen some Nutcrackers that do have 3D details to like their eyes and their mouth, like their teeth area. I don't think that's necessary. I'm going to string a bead that's complementary color to the design onto my little wire that's coming out the Nutcracker's head. And then I'm going to bend the wire down. You don't want to bend it all the way around the nail so that the tip of it sits on the nail. You need to leave a gap at the very tip of the nail for the bead to still be able to go to the end. So you have to bend it in a way that it leaves the wire at a parallel line going down the tip of the nail. Bend that around, and then you're going to secure the wire to the tip of the nail. You don't want to add any acrylic going farther up the nail because you don't want to lose any of that wire track. You want to leave as much space as you possibly can. I'm going to cap the entire tip of the nail with my darker shade of my icy pink. Just to finish it off, it makes it look a lot more complete that way. And now in a nail form backing, I'm going to be sculpting the Nutcracker's chin, his upper row of teeth, chin, and then beard. Again, so many different styles of Nutcrackers. They don't all necessarily have this long goatee beard. However, in terms of creating your own style, this is one circumstance where I would really recommend you add the long beard because it will be covering up that wire track. And you don't want the wire track to be visible throughout the whole time your Nutcracker is sitting with his mouth closed. You want that to be hidden so that once you open the mouth, it's a huge surprise. Add the tiniest bit of nail glue to the top of your bead while the bead is up towards the face, and then set your chin beard piece on top of the bead and just hold it there until the nail glue starts to grab. It will still be wiggly because the bead underneath this is wiggly. So don't be concerned if it's moving around. As long as you can tell that the bead is moving with it and it's not just the chin and beard moving, then you're in good shape. Tip it slightly to the side and squeeze a little bit of clear acrylic underneath that, holding the beard onto the bead. Repeat for the other side and then go through with your acrylic paint and add some lovely little details. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a nice rich blush across my Nutcracker's cheeks and nose. And then I'm going to work in those eyes. If you did decide to sculpt in the eyes, then figuring out their placement would be significantly easier because it'd be sculpted in for you. Otherwise, if you have not, start out with two very parallel or very symmetrical straight lines right about the top of the bridge of the nose. And then swoop them down in U-shapes underneath. Try to keep those lines as straight as you possibly can. After you have that done, go through with some black paint that has been diluted so it paints in really nice skinny little lines, and add some detailing around your Nutcracker. Bottom of the nose, top of the eyes, eyebrows. Because I am keeping this one, like I said earlier, kind of soft, I'm not going to overdo the black outlines. I am going to do his mustache in black paint as well. I liked the contrast of black mustache, white beard. For some reason, that just seemed like a good plan for me. After you do have that mustache painted in, I'm going to go through with a light blue and I'm going to be adding in his eyes. Same thing, keeping in with that pastel kind of soft look throughout this whole thing. I'm not going to go in with too intense of a blue for the eyes. And then after you have that done, I'm going to open up the mouth, and with paint, I'm going to paint, or with burgundy paint, I'm going to paint the base of the mouth, a little line for the start of the mouth above where it opens, and then the majority of that rectangle we made for the bottom part of his mouth. After that's done, continue on with your burgundy paint and do some outlines here and there around the entire Nutcracker. Instead of doing black paint, because that would overwhelm the softness of this design, using a burgundy, which is complementary to all of the pinks and also present in the design otherwise, is a great choice for the outlines. However, if you still feel like the burgundy outlines are too much, it's too intense, it's too dark, you could skip them altogether. Especially in certain areas where the two pinks are touching, I wanted that separation so that you could tell the difference between the lighter pink and the darker pink a bit easier. With white paint, I'm going to be adding his little teeth on both the top part of his mouth and the bottom, as well as highlighting his hair. His hair being sculpted in white just seemed a little less bright than the areas that were painted. Same thing for his beard. After you have highlighted all of those areas with little lines for the hair, you can go back through and touch up anything else that needs it. I'm going to take a different pink and outline the light pink top of the hat, just so that it, stands out a little bit more against the background. Black pupils. If you want to do more detail in the eyes, you can add highlights if you want. I wanted to keep him a little simpler, so I'm not going to. And then with the foil gel, which is in the Madam Glam Advent Calendar, I am going to be painting my foiled details onto my Nutcracker. I added stripes down his arms. I'm going to add a stripe across the front of that hat. And I'm going to be adding some polka dots here and there. You don't need to feel like that you need to do all of your foiled details right now. Do some of them, come back and do some more. Here is that rose gold foil. It is very, very icy in color. It's almost like a champagne pink is what I would say. I'm going to press that onto the first section that I'm going to be foiling, and then with a silicone tool, press that foil in place. Use some pretty good pressure when you're doing that. After that side's done, go around, repeat the process for the other side. Make sure as you're doing this, you do not touch any of your other foiled areas with your fingers, because it will remove that super stickiness and it will make it so the foil does not stick very well. So leave all of those spots without touching them with your fingers or with a glove or tools or paintbrushes. Leave them all. There are the polka dots across the top, and then we're going to do that front of the hat. After you have, this area of your Nutcracker foiled and you want to add more, if you're like, man, that was fun, this turned out well, I'm going to be adding some more foil to this guy because that was awesome. Go through and do more. I'm going to add some polka dots down the light pink areas on his chest. I'm going to do one side at a time so that I can kind of turn his beard away from where I'm working. There's the first side, go through and do the second side. This foil gel does cure in a minute in your lamp, so make sure that you do fully cure it for that minute so that it has the correct amount of stickiness to grab the foil. After that has all been done, I'm going to be applying some gel sealer over the background and then over some of my foiled areas. So I'm going to just go over, make sure that that foil is secure. Also, the foil looks lovely once it's shiny. Same thing, I'm going to do one side by the beard and then the other side so I can tip the beard to one side and then the other. Apply matte top coat over the areas that do not have top coat yet. Face, top of hat, beard, and you're all done. I love it. It's so cool. I love the opening and closing mouth detail. It is so much fun and it is such a surprise when you look at it at first and you can't see the wire at all. I hope you like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see my future videos as well.